Hi everybody, and welcome to Volunteer Mobilization, a VISTA Blend class. My name is Jennifer Moore, and I'll be your course facilitator over the next several weeks. I've been facilitating this course for several years now, and I always look forward to meeting a new group of VISTAs, getting to know you all, and helping you develop your volunteer program. It's always a fun journey, and I hope you're ready to learn a lot. This is an introductory course, and it's designed to be substantial and rigorous enough for college credit, but also designed to be manageable for you. And it has practical lessons that you can apply immediately at your site. It's a good course for those with newly developed volunteer programs, but also for those of you who want to build your knowledge around volunteer mobilization. We will be looking at ideas and strategies that you may not have previously used, and this can certainly improve existing volunteer programs. I want you to feel free to contact me anytime with questions. And the best way to do that is through the course platform. I'll be showing you how to send me a private message in the course. And it's preferable to communicate through the course platform because we can keep track of our conversations there. You can also email me, however, and I'll show you where to find my email. The email address is moor0054@gmail.com in case you need it. It's on my course profile, which I'll show you in just a few minutes. And if you would like to set up a time for a one-on-one phone call or a chat session, just shoot me a message and we'll arrange a time for that. Now keep in mind that I'm on the West Coast outside of Portland, Oregon, so we'll have to arrange a time that works depending on what time zone you're in. Okay? You can also use the course discussion forum, which is our class forum for discussing course topics. In many cases, if you have a question about something, chances are someone else in the class might have the same question. They just haven't asked it yet. So posting questions for everyone to see can help everyone get the answers. In addition, I'll be holding conference calls each week so that you can call in and ask questions or just listen in. I'll be sending messages to everyone with the dates, times, and instructions for all of those conference calls. And I will also post a recording of each conference call, so if you miss it, you can still listen in and get the information. Now, I want to remind everyone, this course should be an open learning community. Everyone should feel comfortable asking questions or getting advice on challenges at their site or solving communication problems. To facilitate this, we need to be sure to respect each other's confidentiality. So always be careful if you discuss the course with anyone outside of our class, for example, your supervisor. You're doing it without identifying information about your fellow VISTAs. Now, I know you've all heard about the Hatch Act, and I just want to give you a quick reminder that you'll want to abide by the Hatch Act while participating in the course. So refrain from partisan politics in the class. Now, our 5-session objectives for the video today are for you to get to know me. Hello. Hopefully you've done that. Understand the course concepts behind the volunteer mobilization course. Be comfortable navigating the course. Understand course requirements and timeline. And be aware of a few of the upcoming assignments and readings for the next couple of weeks. Next, we're going to spend some time reviewing the course and our syllabus, after which we'll spend some time discussing key concepts related to the course. And finally, we'll look at the first assignment and preview the upcoming module. Okay, so this should look familiar to most of you. If you've been into the classroom, this is what it looks like. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm showing you a previous section of the class because the class that you will actually be taking is still being built and will be uploaded to the site after, or opened on the site after it's completed. So please disregard any of the dates that you'll see here. That's going to be different for your class, obviously, but this is going to look exactly the same as it will when you log into your class. So the first thing I'd like to show you about this, the course website, is our Course Communication Center, which I talked about earlier. You'll see announcements from me under News from Your Facilitator. Those correspond to exactly what's in this latest news column. It's basically the same thing. You'll also receive email copies of any announcement that I post in this forum. So this is where I communicate all of the critical information about the class, including upcoming assignments, reminders. I also will include here information about our conference calls that I'll be holding each week, and I will also record videos on each of the assignments, a short, very brief, less than 10-minute walkthrough of each assignment so that you can have that as an addition to your readings and other course materials. If you have any technical questions, you can post them in this forum. That's pretty straightforward. And then course discussion, I would like everyone to use this forum as much as possible. This is basically the way that you can communicate with the entire class. I'm going to be posting a couple messages in here each week. You won't get automatic emails from this forum unless you actually sign up to do so, which you can do. But you will be able to see additional tips, information, ideas about all of our topics. I'll ask some questions to start discussions, and then please feel free to add your own thoughts, ideas, tips, anything that you'd like to discuss with the entire class. The nice thing about a class like this is that we have each other for a resource, so let's use that opportunity to get some great feedback and learn from each other. Now, I mentioned messaging in the course. This is one way that you can click right here and message anyone directly, including me. So you can just type in my name. I won't be able to look up myself because I'm in my profile. But if you typed in my name and searched, you would be able to find me and send me a direct message, which would be private. You can also check your contacts and add me to your contacts and look in the course section for the course that you'll be taking. Also, on each page of the course website, you'll see this little messaging bubble up here, and that will also get you to this exact same page. And if you have a new message waiting for you to read, it will indicate that up here as well. And you can always hit the back button on your browser to navigate through the course. It's pretty easy to do, back and forth. Now, we do have a chat room, but I don't really use it. If you would like to schedule a chat session with me, you can certainly message me and we can find a time to do that. Excuse me. Keep in mind that I'm on Pacific time, so we may have to work on organizing a time that works if you're on a different time zone. And also, I'm happy to use a different chatting function like Google Hangouts or something like that. Okay, before we get to the rest of that, I would like to show you this drop-down menu right here, which also gets you to all the different pieces of the class in just a quick little drop-down menu. So you can click a link to list of all the people, your grades, assignments, etc. So you feel free to check that out. And then if you scroll down here, you'll see that the course is laid out in modules. So here's our first week. This describes what we'll be doing in the week, gives you the objectives for the week, and links you to the assignments for each week, which will also include the readings. And you'll see when you look at your classroom view that you will not be able to see all the weeks of the course, okay? So one of the reasons that is because we don't want people to work too far ahead in the class. We want you to stay on track so everybody sort of works together, and that is because the assignments build off of each other. So it's important not to go too far ahead so that you can receive feedback from me before you proceed on to the next module. The modules will open the Friday before they are set to begin. Okay, so the class is laid out with 4 modules and then an additional week 1 for our intro week, which we're in right now, and then a conclusion week at the end. So a total of 10 weeks. Okay, next we'll look at the course resources, and let's check out the syllabus. I'll also show you really quickly this course activity checklist, and then we'll discuss the student guide. The rest of this is just a link to all of the course readings, any supplemental resources that we've provided you, and then acknowledgments for the class, which you do not need to read. Here we go. Let's open the syllabus really quick. Work through this together. So we're sort of already doing the overview and all of that. So let's go down here where we can see the course at a glance. So it gives you all of the different readings that you'll be doing and what assignments you'll have for each week. Now you'll notice, again, there are no due dates or point values on this syllabus. That's because they're listed in the course activities checklist, which I'll be showing you in just a moment. So that's how the course is laid out. Let's look at this course completion excuse me, and grading criteria really quick. And then we'll go through some of the other elements of the. Okay, so this is a pass-fail class, and in order to pass the class, you must earn 70% or 140 points, but you also must complete at least 3 of the final module work products. So there's 4 total. So in order to pass, you have to complete at least 3. Hopefully you'll complete all 4. And then the final reflection. So what that means is that if you were to earn 140 points in the class, but you did not complete the final reflection, you would still not pass the class. Okay, but it's pretty easy to get those 140 points. There's 200 points total, and I will work with you as much as possible to help you through if you feel like you're struggling. Now, the course expectations are basically that we expect you to read all the required articles, chapters, and other materials. Anything that is optional or supplemental are not required. That you'll complete and submit all activities by the due dates. And that you'll contact me if you have any questions about the materials or assignments that you're struggling with. And I will read all of your assignments, and I will provide you thorough and extensive feedback on your assignments. And I will also respond to questions promptly, usually within 24 hours, but no later than 48 hours. Now, we already discussed communication. Let's look at course rules and guidelines, because this is important. Academic honesty and integrity. So one of the most important things to keep in mind is that all the work in this class must be your own original work created just for this class. Okay? A lot of you are in programs where you already have some of these resources put in place. For example, you may already have volunteer position descriptions written. In the first module, we'll be creating one volunteer position description based on the readings in this class. If you turned in something that was already in existence at your organization, that would not be fulfilling the needs of the class. So you would not be meeting the criteria for that assignment. You have to create an original volunteer position description that is based on our readings and using the assignment worksheets that we give you. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Course conduct, again, we just want everyone to feel that they can share openly, disagree respectfully, for example, in the course discussion forum or on our conference call, and then use discretion when you're talking to anyone else outside of the class so that you don't reveal anyone's name or program or site or reveal any information that might breach their confidentiality. Now, participation is key because not everyone who got into this class not everyone who wanted to get into this class actually got in. So I want you to seriously consider whether or not this class is going to work out for you during the first 2 weeks, because during that first 2 weeks is the only time that we can add someone from the wait list if you decide to drop. So please get in touch with me as soon as you know if you feel that the class is going to be too much work with what you're already doing at your site, or if you feel that it's not going to meet the needs that you have. I'm happy to add someone from the wait list during that time, but after that 2-week period, we can't add anyone to the wait list. So basically that opportunity is gone for them. Hopefully you will all be really excited to participate in the class, and you'll have plenty of time, but just let me know as soon as possible if you feel that you cannot. Now, the assignment due dates are always due on Sundays at 11 p.m. So Sundays at 11 p.m., that's going to be the due dates for every single assignment. When we look at the activity checklist, you'll see the specific due dates, and I'll show you that in just a minute. There is a late policy. Basically, we allow you to turn in assignments up to 10 days late, but that is with 1 point deducted for each day late. Now, I'm authorized to give everyone extensions if you have something come up at your site, if you feel like you're going to need extra time, something comes up in your personal life, if you're traveling, I can offer an extension once or twice during the class. Typically, we want you to turn in assignments within a week of the due date, even if you do request an extension. But keep that in mind that if for some reason you did need to turn in something late, just let me know. It's all about notice. If you let me know, I will work with you on turning in the assignments late. If you don't let me know, then that 1 point penalty will go into effect. And you do have the 10 days to turn it in. But if an assignment is worth 10 points, for example, the quizzes, and you take the quiz 10 days late, even if you do well on the quiz, you'll still get a 0. So keep that in mind, unless you've put in an extension. I'd also like to say really quickly before we move on that if you have any travel plans, if you're going to be traveling for work or you're going to be traveling for vacation, anything at all that you know about now, please let me know as soon as possible, because I can help you work on either turning something in early or putting extensions in place right away, whatever we need to do to make sure that you don't get too far behind in the class. Now, if you do get behind in the class and you feel like you're a week or two behind, that is not a problem. I can help you catch up. You just need to communicate with me and let me know where you're at and what's going on, and we'll work together. Okay, technology requirements. This lays it out pretty clearly for you. You need a web browser and a PDF reader. You also need some sort of word processing software. So some of you may not have Microsoft Word on your computer. You can use something like Google Docs or Online Office. You can also use freeware like OpenOffice, which is basically almost exactly the same thing as Microsoft Office. It has a Word program, but it's free, and it's called OpenOffice. Now, all the course readings are provided for you. You do not have to look for these anywhere else. Everything is linked through the assignment pages, so don't worry about that. Okay, now let's go back to the site, and I'll just quickly show you the course activity checklist. Give you a brief preview of this. Keep in mind all of these dates are for a different class, so don't worry about that. But this is just something that you should probably print off and put up on your wall so that you know what's due when, and you can actually check it off for yourself. Okay, that's what that looks like. It's a very brief document. Now, the student guide is basically a written walkthrough of how to navigate the course platform. So it talks about how to access the forums, how to post in the forums, how to upload assignments, etc. So if you have any technical questions, the first thing to do is read through the student guide and make sure that you understand uploading and things like that. And then, of course, you can communicate any questions in the technical questions forum. Okay, now we're going to go back to the PowerPoint, and then I'll walk you through some of the core concepts behind the class, and we'll look more at what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. Now that we've looked at the course layout, let's look at some of the content of the course. So as part of the first week's assignments, you'll be visiting the Volunteering in America website, which is a great data source to find out what the trends are in volunteering regionally, nationally, locally. This is something you can use to conduct research for your organization, and you can actually bookmark it for use by your VISTA site in the future and share it with other people at your site. Now, on this Volunteering in America website, there are articles and news about volunteering, but one of the best uses for the site is the interactive map, which you see a picture of here, that shows you the data for your state and possibly even your city. So what you're looking at here on this slide is data for the entire country, but also when I show you how to access the map, which I will do in just a few minutes, you're going to be able to go straight through to the state. And then in some cases where you're in a large metropolitan area like LA or Portland, they actually have the city data listed. Okay. Now, one of the reasons that we look at these trends is that we get some solid data about who volunteers, where they volunteer, and what type of volunteering people are actually doing. Many of you, like I said, won't be able to visit the city, but you can use the information for your state. Now, along with tracking the local trends, it's important to do some research and information gathering prior to launching or designing any volunteer program. So I recommend that as part of this first week or two, you survey some of the staff and the current volunteers at your site. You can do this informally, just briefly chatting, to find out more about your organization needs and the volunteer needs and motivations. Okay, let's look at some of this specific information. So for example, Volunteering in America explains that in the latest data collected in 2014, there were 62.8 million volunteers throughout the country, volunteering a total of 7.9 billion hours. So that's really great news for those of us in volunteering. Another fun fact is volunteering's positive impact on employment. We can see that people who volunteer have a statistically higher chance of finding employment, which can be a great motivator for people and help you in your recruitment efforts. And then people who volunteer have a statistically higher chance of being a donor, which is also great news for many of our organizations. And this can be one of the ways that maybe you can get buy-in from staff or other people at your organization who may be wary of volunteers. And then, of course, we want to look at the age groups of people who volunteer. Okay, these graphics that I'm showing you right now are showing the trends nationwide, but if you look at the data for your state, for example, and you see that there are a large percentage of volunteers of a certain age group, it might give you a better idea of where to focus your recruitment efforts. So for example, if there are a lot of millennials volunteering in your area, you might want to start recruiting on college campuses. If there are a lot of older people, then maybe the retired senior volunteer program is a great way to go. Or local organizations, churches where a lot of older people might be frequenting. Now this graphic gives you a snapshot of where or in what fields people volunteer. As you can see, nationally, most people volunteer in religious organizations, and the second most is in education. Now let's think about why that might be. One idea about why those two types of organizations get the bulk of volunteers is that they actually do a really great job of asking people to volunteer. They're out there actively recruiting on a regular basis, and people are invested in their children's education, and they're invested in their religious institutions. So when you start asking your own volunteers why they volunteer at your organization, you're going to be getting a better picture of why people are putting their time into the particular type of work that they're doing. Now, another set of information gives you a sense of what volunteers do with their time within those organizations. How can you use this type of data? Well, you could keep this in mind when you're structuring volunteer activities, developing volunteer positions, when you're deciding what activities make sense for volunteers to do at your organization. It can also help you identify some skill sets volunteers could bring to your organization. So again, why do we look at trends? The main idea is that the more you know about the potential volunteers in your area, the more information you have to use in your recruitment efforts and also in retaining your volunteers and developing the best volunteer position descriptions that you can. So after you finish this video, you're going to be visiting the Volunteering in America website to find some key information about your own state and maybe even your own city. And I'm going to walk you through this really quickly, how to do that. Okay, so when you go to the Volunteering in America website, this is what it's going to look like. If you just click on View National Profile or click on the map, it'll take you to the data page. So we can click on, I clicked View National Profile, so it's loading. Okay, here it goes. So this is showing you the national data set. Okay, what we're going to look at is, I'm going to walk you through the steps to find the information specific to your state. You could either click on, if you click, for example, just one of the pieces of the map, it will reload and bring up some overview information on that state. And then you can also choose a city. Okay, but this is not all of the information that we have available to us. What I would like you to do, and what you'll need to do for this particular assignment, is go all the way down here to the last bullet point and click Additional Data. And that's where we want you to look at some of the more specific data. So you can leave all of these fields as is. You want to look at the most recent year, and a PDF, if that's what works for you, is a nice way to download this. And you can just go to the state. You can also look up large cities if you want. But if you go to the state first, it will let you look up a city from there. So you go to the state and you select that state. See? And then if you go to the city here, you can look up all the different cities. If you can't find your city, then just do state. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to do one state. Then we're going to look at the following metrics. We're going to look at where people volunteer. I want to add that into my selected metrics. The volunteer rates by age group. And then I want to look at all volunteer activities. Okay, so if I look at those pieces, then I hit this button down here and I click Export. And then I've got a data set for the state of Alabama. And it'll pull that up in a PDF. And it tells me the specifics of where people are volunteering, in other words, what type of organization, the volunteer rates by age group, and then the types of activities that they're typically engaged in. And this is what you'll need to do for the assignment that corresponds to this video. So you'll visit the Volunteering and Civic Life in America website and you'll download that data set for your state or your city if it's available. Okay, so after you've downloaded that information, then you're going to want to put it together in a document for me. Just type it up, answer the 4 questions that we've provided along with this video. And the last question, of course, is what do you do next week if you have questions? So answer the 3 questions about your state or local data on volunteer trends, and then answer that final question in a Word document, and then you upload that to the site. And that's worth 4 points. And then you're going to also, of course, complete the other activity for week 1 of the class, which is your introduction, which is worth a point. Okay, so now that we've looked at some of the volunteer trends and we've looked at some of the aspects of the class, we want to start looking at volunteer motivations. Why do you think people volunteer? Think about that for just a minute. All of the different reasons a person could have for volunteering. So typically we can group all of the different reasons that people have for volunteering into 2 broad categories. One is altruism and the other is self-interest. People generally will volunteer for a combination of these motivations. They're not mutually exclusive. So a lot of people are interested in helping others, giving back. They have a sense of civic duty, a sense of obligation. They want to have an impact. And then, of course, some people volunteer for work experience, to gain new skills, to have fun, to network professionally, perhaps, to make new friends, or maybe to associate with their current friends, to feel needed, etc. So we want to consider the reasons that people volunteer specifically at your organization. Excuse me. And part of the way to do this is just ask your volunteers what some of their motivations are. This will start to give you a really good picture of what types of people volunteer at your organization and why. And the why speaks to the motivations. Okay? So we want to know this because we want to be able to specifically target our volunteer recruitment so that we can tap in to volunteer motivations. And then you'll have a better chance of recruiting and keeping the right volunteers for your organization. All of these motivations and trends should be at the back of your mind whenever you're working on volunteer-related activities at your site. In addition, you're going to want to start thinking about volunteer needs. Now, there's a list of needs that our textbook authors have identified, and this has been corroborated by a lot of experts in the field. Some of the needs that volunteers have are a sense of ownership. In other words, they need to have an idea that something is within their control, that they're actually responsible for something. They need authority to think, so they need to have some measure of decision-making power, even if it's just the ability to decide how to approach the project or the responsibilities that they are undertaking. They need responsibility for results. So they want to be results focused. You want to actually tell them what outcome you expect to have happen as a result of their work. If they know what the outcome is, then they know their objective and their goals. And then keeping score is just a way of measuring for that outcome. It's confusing to some people because of the way that it's termed, keeping score. We're not actually talking about keeping score in a traditional sense. I'm talking about developing some sort of measurement tools that will tell the volunteer and the organization whether the volunteer is actually making progress toward accomplishing the objectives and the outcomes that you've set for them. And then clear expectations. So this is important because you never want to make a volunteer position seem different than it really is. You don't want to make it seem easier or more difficult, and you want to make sure it's very clear what they're going to be getting themselves into. You also want to use volunteers strategically. It could be frustrating to a volunteer who has a very specific, maybe, skill set to be used in a way that doesn't make use of that skill set. So, for example, if someone has a specialty, a professional specialty, you might consider using them in that capacity rather than having them do something that takes less skill. Try to get to know your volunteers' skills and use them strategically. Okay, how are we going to use all this information? So throughout the class, we'll be spending the first week of each module looking at all of these needs and motivations, looking at all of the outcomes, the evaluation tools, all of the planning, and development that we need to develop the final tools that we can use at our site. And those final tools are these systems. So you're actually going to walk away from this class with a completed volunteer position description, which again can be used. You can transfer the skills that you learn in developing a volunteer position description to any volunteer position description. And you're going to be developing in the second module a volunteer recruitment message and a volunteer recruitment plan. In fact, you'll be developing 2 volunteer recruitment messages. In the third module, you'll be developing a volunteer interview and a screening protocol. And in the fourth module, you'll develop a volunteer orientation outline and training plan together. So you'll have all of these documents in place by the time the class is completed. Of course, many of you may already have some of these documents in place at your organization, but the ones that you'll create for the class should be more thorough and specific based on the course readings. Okay, so the first module will include a worksheet where you'll strategize for a position description. Now, I want you to keep in mind that in this worksheet, you're going to be doing a lot of brainstorming and hopefully some research, talking to people at your organization, staff, and volunteers about what are the needs for volunteers at your organization. What are the potential outcomes for a particular position? You can decide from here which position you would like to use for the final product, which is to create a position description. We are only creating one position description for the class, and it is the position that the entire rest of the class documents will be based off of. So if you decide to complete a position description for an academic tutor, for example, that one position will be the position that you develop a recruitment plan and message for, that you develop screening and interviewing protocol for, and that you develop an orientation and training plan for. Now, some of you may go, well, I don't have any volunteers at my organization. My site doesn't use volunteers. That's fine. We can work with that. You could always think about a volunteer that could be used, a type of volunteer position that could be put into place at your site. Or if you have further concerns about this, just get in touch with me and I can help you work through how to find or create a volunteer position that would work well for this class and also serve hopefully your site, and if not your site, then at least serve you so that you understand the process that we're going to be going through in the class. Okay, so finally, I'll be posting an announcement with a link to videos about each of those first couple of assignments, the position description worksheet and the final position description. And I'll also post more tips and information in the course discussion forum. Of course, as I already explained, I'm going to be posting very brief video walkthroughs for each assignment, so you don't have to worry. You'll hear from me again. Those videos are not required. They're just a supplement so that you have something to see and listen to. Hopefully all of this helped clarify for you how the course is structured, some of the core concepts, and the manner that you'll proceed through each module. Make sure that you visit the Volunteering in America website to gather the information that you need on the trends in your area and submit the answers to the 4 questions for this assignment to me by Sunday at 11 p.m. And don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions at all. I want the course to be pleasant, informative, and useful for you. I don't want you to feel stressed out about having to do any of the work, so just be sure to stay in contact with me and I'll help you get through the course without too much stress. Make sure that you try to tune into the conference calls or listen to the recordings, send me messages, read through, and even post in the forums, and let me know if I can do anything at all for you throughout the course. Thanks a lot, and I'll talk with you soon.